Hello, BookTube. I thought we'd try another mail haul today since yesterday's went comparatively well. It's a it's a dim, cool, somewhat gusty day. Perfect day for staying indoors, and that's exactly how my little dog feels. She doesn't like going out in weather like this, so that works fine for me since I'm a little bit under the weather. Uh, so we'll just go through the mail instead, and I will spend the day reading and writing. uh, and we'll start with I've got a pile of packages here. We'll start with a periodical. It's a periodical that's been keeping me company for the last hour. This is the London Times Literary Supplement, the TLS, the greatest literary journal in the Western world. But I was a little disappointed with this issue. I go to the TLS for uh, essays, review commentary, that sort of thing. But I like it to have bite, personality. And quite a few of the reviews this time around are simply high-minded book reports. That's definitely true for instance, the first three things in the issue, which are all about new titles in philosophy, where the reviewers basically just recount what the books are about. Which for those of you who never really tried your hand at a formal book review, you might think, well, isn't that a formal book review? And it's not. No, it's not at all. Maybe these writers are new to formal book reviewing. I don't know. But one of the things that one of the risks that I run when I read the TLS is that it will tempt me to overseas book purchases. To if I see a book reviewed in the TLS and it looks really interesting to me, I immediately do a mental calculation on whether or not there's any chance, and how good the chance is, that it will ever show up in America. Quite a few things don't. The learned, journals that they review from time to time with TLS often seem mouthwatering to me, but they're never going to appear here. And regional titles, stuff that's about regional concerns that aren't the royals, is probably not going to get an American publisher. And I wonder about some of these things. One of them, this issue had a few books like that. One of them, I think, is a sure thing. Uh, since it's a university press, so it might get distribution in the United States. I might be able to request it. It's called Twice Upon a Time, Benjamin Lefebvre's University of Toronto Press collection of the short stories of L.M. Montgomery, the author of the Anne of Avonlea series. Uh, and she grew up 4,000 miles closer to Boston than she did to London. So I'm kind of hoping she grew up on Prince Edward Island. I'm kind of hoping, and the Anne of Avonlea books are beloved by now, what, three generations of readers with undimmed intensity, undimmed affection. Not much of an attempt has ever been made to cancel her by lunatics in academia. So it's possible that this will get an American distribution, a broader American distribution. It won't be very broad because the University of Toronto won't be putting it in bookstores, but I might be able to get a copy, is what I'm saying. I'm not sure 100% that I want a copy because this has, I think, this collection collects 24 L.M. Montgomery short stories, and she wrote something like 600 of them. She's a really, really talented writer, so I'm not sure that I want a collection that has 24 stories. That seems to me to say a lot more about Benjamin Lefebvre than it does about Montgomery herself. So I might pass on it even if I see it, but it's the wanting to see it that is the thing. Same thing with this one, but this is Alan Lane, but I'm pretty sure this already has a slated American publisher. There's a book called Beyond the Wall by Katja Hoyer about East Germany from 1950 to 1990, East Germany as a country and what it was like to live there, which, according to this author, at least from this review, is a rosier picture than you would think. Certainly a rosier picture than we in the Cold War-addled U.S. were ever told. That it was actually could be a fairly nice place to live. I would love to read the book. I'm pretty sure that it will get an American distribution, but there are a couple of other things here that might not. Like, for instance, there's a 2-page spread on natural history, on new releases in natural history. One is by Sarah Coulthard, and it's called Foul Play, A History of the Chicken from Dinosaur to Dinner Plate. But there's another one. There's a 2 for a review here. The review is by Rebecca Foster, and the 2 books are In Search of One Last Song, Britain's Disappearing Birds and the People Trying to Save Them, and Forget Me Not, Finding the Forgotten Species of Climate Change Britain. I don't imagine either one of those getting an American publisher. And that's a little bit of a shame. I would kind of like to read both of those. Same thing with this one, only this one is Cambridge University Press, and they probably will distribute this in America too. And I do often get books from them. So it's called it's by Francesca McKenney, and it's called Birdsong, Speech, and Poetry: The Art of Composition in the Long 19th Century, with this lovely picture, this lovely artwork of a nightingale, just fantastic. So, from The Birds of Great Britain by John Gould in 1873, which is a book that I have read. I really, really like it, and I would love to find a copy, a battered old, not very valuable copy at the Brattle Bookshop. That would be great. It could still happen. For all I know, they have a copy at the Brattle, just up on the third floor with the collectible books where I never go. But that was the one periodical, and then we have packages, and we'll start with something that is wafer thin. So this could be a slim volume of poetry. It never does much for me, but I can't imagine anything being this small that isn't that, especially since publishers now give you their catalogs just electronically. It used to be that a package this small could be a catalog, and catalogs are great. And I've been getting quite a few of summer catalogs, and also a couple of winter catalogs, and they've been amazing. There are so many great things coming down the pipe. What is this? Oh no, this is a collection of short stories, very short stories. So this is 128 pages long. It's going to be a hardcover for $20, and it's Diane Williams. It's I Hear You're Rich. Stories by Diane Williams. Tiny little thing. Don't imagine that a publicist is going to have much to say about this. Diane Williams' stories are taut close-ups revealing entire lives full of lust, curiosity, humor, and morbid reflections in the span of 2 or 3 pages. Her images are daring and her sentences meticulous, forming complete worlds that deliver visionary insights into what it means to be human. See what I mean? That's not very helpful. This comes out in August. So it's a very small collection of short stories. And then this next package is pretty small too. Again, it won't be a catalog, although I've been overjoyed by some of the things that I have seen in catalogs for the winter. I'm trying not to geek out entirely over one particular thing that I saw in catalogs. I have finally been in touch with a publicist at long last about the next trio of Black Spine Penguin Classic Marvel comic books. So, some of you may remember I went absolutely geekishly nuts when Penguin decided to publish Marvel comics. That was just incredible, just an amazing experience. And they did Spider-Man, Captain America, and the Black Panther. And for the next the three that are coming out in a few months, they're going with super teams. So the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the X-Men. Same format, same setup as before, where you can get the classic Black Spine Penguin Classic paperback, or you can get a more collectible hardcover edition of all three. They did well. Both of those editions did well for Penguin and for Marvel, and became collectible. It's an instantly collectible thing. It's a collectible niche anyway. I loved seeing it. I love looking at those penguins on my Penguin wall, on my Penguin bookcase. And now the 3 more are coming to me. I can't wait. But anyway, what have we got here? Okay, so this is another August release. This is a novel called Suddenly by Isabelle Autissier, translated by Gretchen Schmidt. Another beautiful cover. What is going on here? Even this thing, which is, a total travesty, a 2-page short story, please. But nevertheless, these are well done. These covers are well done. I don't have a sheet for this. So let's see here. The beginning of the book tells me that the author is the first woman to have sailed around the world solo in competition. She was a navigator until 1999 and is currently the president of the French chapter of the World Wildlife Fund. It's not a bad biography to have, is it? Let's see here. Louise and Ludo want to squeeze as much as they can out of life. Working in their offices, they live in anticipation of their next weekend outdoor adventure, but always feel like they could be doing more. So, in their whirlwind romance, they decide to quit their corporate jobs, fix up an old boat, and sail it around the world. And there are numerous YouTube channels detailing people doing that in their real life. So that's not as far fetched as it might seem. Uh, they're having the time of their lives, but then they make an unscheduled detour to a small Antarctic island where one single storm leaves them stranded. In a dark twist, they find themselves living out the kind of adventure they have only ever read about, testing their will to survive and the limits of a relationship formed amid the comfort and safety of modern life. Well, a shipmate of mine a long, long time ago would confirm that, and often said, "The way you know how you're going to get on with people is when the water's running low." So fantastic! I won't read either one of these. Well, this thing surely my simply holding it like this constitutes that I have already read it. There is going to be no content here. You cannot write a short story in 2 pages. But I won't. In either case, I won't experience either one of these books until later on in the summer. So let's see if we can maybe find a finished copy that can go on the TBR today. Oh, all right. And ask and ye shall receive. This next one is a finished copy. What have we got here? Okay, I don't need all this folderol. Oh, great. Okay, we've seen this already. This is a May release. This is the finished copy of Olivia Wolfgang Smith's novel Glassworks, in which glass plays a part in multiple generations of a family. This is her debut novel, and it is an expansive family saga following both blood, family, and queer chosen family across 4 generations to explore the secrets they keep, the legacies they leave, and how they chafe against society's prescribed expectations for gender and sexuality. Okay, that's a lot more politically charged than the original pub sheet was, as far as I remember. This book is full of warmth and heartbreak and characters that feel achingly real. In 1910, Agnes Carter makes the wrong choice in marriage. Well, if she marries a man, that goes without saying. Am I right? Up top. After years as an independent woman of fortune, wielding influence on the board of a prominent university because of her financial donations, she is now subject to the whims of an abusive husband who squanders her fortune. But when bohemian naturalist and glassblower Ignacy Novak, hired by the university to create delicate glass models of the natural world, reignites Agnes's passion for science, she begins to imagine a different life, and she sets her mind to getting it. And then we move on through a couple of other generations of people whose lives are affected by glass, who's worked in one way or another. And this comes out in late May. Of course, I get my hackles up a little at Twitter phraseology like found family. I was for the whole of my life a sincere devotee, a sincere advocate of the concept of found family. That when you go through life, you build a very real family, people who are much more than friends, people who you have decided that all the meaningful stuff, the ugly stuff, the beautiful stuff, the deeper stuff, that you can make that happen. You can decide to do that. That's not just a function of blood. I've been a foremost proponent of that for 60 years. How could I not be? Right? Since my best friends have always been a different species. But it has been co-opted like so much else by 21st century Twitter politics. Found family means men can have babies and you hate your relatives. It has come to mean those things in ways that are very, very invidious. Usually the way found family is manipulated now in nonfiction or in the novels where I've seen it used is I'm using the word found family to prepare the reader ahead of time for the fact that all the main characters' blood relatives are going to be thoroughgoing bastards for no reason, and that they're all going to be dumped. And I don't know if that's how this book will do it. This is a debut novel, and that all automatically fills me with joy because I don't know what the author will do and won't do. So my hackles are up a little at that phrase, but the author could mean it in the right way. The author could mean it in the way that I've meant it for the whole of my life. That would be absolutely great. We will see. I admit I go into 2023 fiction with my guard up in a way that I don't typically in the life of a critic, my life of a critic. I go at any book with my guard up because my first question for any book is, how are you going to waste my time? and more importantly, the time of the people right behind me, the time of the people whose junkyard I'm guarding. They're going about their jobs. They're putting on pants every day. They've got families to raise and whatnot. And therefore, their reading time is incredibly precious. And you want to waste it. You want to deprive them of money and you want to waste their time. And I'm here to, ahead of time, to strain out the stuff and protect them a little from that. So my instinct with any new book is always that my guard is up. How are you going to want to waste my time? How can I sift through how worthwhile you are? But in 2023, 2022, 2023, my guard is up even more because in addition to wondering that about, just guarding your time, the time of readers who don't have all day to read, I also have to worry, okay, what political agenda are you going to be pushing? Even in a debut novel, I'm hoping that a debut novel is free of it. But it could be that a debut novel only got to be published because it has one. and it was the espoused political philosophy of that novel's patrons along the stages of its gestation. We shall see. We shall see. I have the finished copy now. There's no way on what is this, the 5th of April? There's no way I'm going to read May books now. But at the end of the month, I will start to shift into May books to get ready to hit the ground for May running. So I'll certainly do it then. So let's see what this next one is. We'll try to regain control here. We don't want to veer towards any kind of ranting because that will ruin the video. So what have we got here? Okay, this is another May release. Okay, well, I don't think I knew this was coming. This is by Gary Saul Morson, and it is called Wonder Confronts Certainty. And like every book that I have seen in 2023, aside from fiction, every nonfiction work that I've seen in 2023, it has a doctoral dissertation length subtitle. So let's take a moment, get your drinks ready, clear off the rest of your calendar, and let's read the subtitle. Russian Writers on the Timeless Questions and Why Their Answers Matter. Okay. First of all, there's no such thing as a timeless question with a capital T. There's no such thing as the ancients with a capital A. There's no such thing as truth with a capital T. There's no such thing, especially as wisdom with a capital W. There is no such thing as those things. Those things do not exist. So, but let's see here. I don't have a sheet for this. We'll just read. Sorry. This is what it looks like. Wonder confronts certainty. You can be certain in wonder, and you can wonder at certainty. It's a ridiculous straw man dichotomy. It is typically the dude bro philosophy grifters that do this, but books, you'll never go poor setting up this kind of idiotic straw man dichotomy. But let's see what the book has to say. Since the age of Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, and Chekhov, Russian literature has posed questions about good and evil, moral responsibility, and human freedom with a clarity and intensity found nowhere else. I'd actually agree with that. The Russians are indispensable on the literary landscape. In this wide-ranging meditation, Gary Saul Morson delineates intellectual debates that have coursed through 2 centuries of Russian writing. As the greatest thinkers of the empire and then the Soviet Union enchanted readers with their idealism, philosophical insight, and revolutionary fervor. No, they didn't enchant readers that way. They enchanted readers with their characters, with their storytelling, their love stories, their doomed love stories, their characters. They enchanted readers with their fiction, not with any of the rest of that. I don't know of anybody who doesn't find the philosophical excurses in War and Peace or anywhere else really tempting to skip. You undersell Tolstoy and Chekhov, and especially Dostoevsky, if you say that's why they enchant their readers. You drastically insult them. The author describes the Russian literary tradition as an argument between radical intelligentsia and the uncompromisingly followed ideology down the path of revolution and violence, and writers who probed ever more deeply into the human condition. The debate concerned what Russians call the accursed questions. If there is no God, are good and evil merely human constructs? Of course, good and evil are human concepts. There's no merely. I don't know what kind of small child you think is going to be fooled by the sleight of hand of that merely. It's just ridiculous. Are there moral concepts in the storm of the great red spot of Jupiter that's been raging for centuries? Are there moral concepts on the Serengeti Plains when a lion stalks a limping gazelle? So a baby gazelle is born, it hits a rock when it hits the ground and breaks its leg. So absent human intervention, it has no hope at all of surviving in the wild. But it can still stand and stagger a little, and its parents are still loving of it. But a lion has been watching that whole time. A lioness has been watching and knows perfectly well what that staggering means. Are there moral precepts there? No, of course they are human conceptions, but they're not merely human conceptions. Anyway, anyway, what are these other massively important questions? Should we look for life's essence in ordinary or extreme conditions? Again, a straw man. There's no such thing as life's essence. Uh, are individual minds best understood in terms of an overarching theory, or, as Tolstoy thought, by tracing the, quote, tiny alterations of consciousness? What do you think? What do you think? Do you think that human minds are best understood with a big slap on top of everything philosophy, or by individually examining those human minds? Is that a legitimate question? Is there anyone outside of kindergarten who doesn't know the answer to that question? Exploring apologia for bloodshed, the author adapts Mikhail Bakhtin's concept of the non-alibi, the idea that one cannot escape or displace responsibility for one's actions. And throughout, the author isolates a characteristic theme of Russian culture. This ought to be good. How the aspiration to relieve profound suffering can lead to either heartfelt empathy or bloodthirsty tyranny. That is a characteristic theme of Russian culture, so that's not a characteristic theme of other cultures. What emerges? Something's going to have to after a good meal. What emerges is a contest between unyielding dogmatism and open-minded dialogue, between heady certainty and a humble sense of the world, the wonder at the world's elusive complexity, a thought-provoking journey into inescapable questions. Well, okay, I sneer, but I have sneered at books that were posing big fake leather elbow patch dude bro questions like this before in 2023 alone, and been proven wrong, and been proven, okay, that was just a cover copy, and the author, it turns out, had a lot more to say on the subject. That has already happened to me a few times in 2023. So dare we look at the author's biography? Judging from, I mean, that was not the book that we read. That was cover copy written by someone else. But judging from that cover copy, I'm going to bet a Boston cream pie that the author is a due-paying member of academia. Let's see. Yes, the author is the Lawrence Dumas Professor of Arts and Humanities at Northwestern University and a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Okay, all right. Well, I will certainly, this is a May release, so I'm assuming I've got a finished copy in a month. But I would certainly give it a try. I am an absolute devotee of Russian literature in English translation. I can't read Russian literature. I can read bits and pieces of it when I bear down on a particular passage. But in the enormous amount of writing that I've done on Russian literature, it's all been American English translations. And even beyond that, it's been parsing what decisions those translations make. So I'm a devotee once removed. But anyway, then we get to, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap up this mail haul, which is skirted close to the edge, but I believe this is still uploadable. I believe that it is. So we've got a box, which is always great to end with. So let's prise this open. Fortunately, I always have scissors nearby. It looks like I'm going to need them in this case. Guarantee this could have been done in an envelope, but another key point: always have scissors nearby, but also remember, always put them right back as soon as they have served their purpose. Put them right back. So what is this next one? It also is a finished copy. Okay, this is also a May release. A lot of May releases this time around. This comes out in early May. This is La Tessera by Gina Apostol. You've got all sorts of designs there, but the ultimate design is a human face. Let's see here. This is the author's first new novel since 2018's breakout Insurrecto, and the publicity sheet refers to it as a pure literary delight. The author's project as a writer has been as consistent as it has been entertaining. She writes erudite, funny books about very tough history. The post-colonial tradition of interrogating who has written history, who gets to comment on it. I don't get to comment on it unless I meet your approval. Who does get to comment on it? In other words, who gets to write their thoughts on it? And what their motives are is just the shallow end of this author's literary pool. Well, I would agree that is the shallow end. Are you going to take us to the deep end? The absurdity of the business of history, its jargons, its careerist internal politics, and the comic outcome of such a realm of academia all have been on the receiving end of this author's razor wit. Somehow, despite all the author's impressive erudition and formal play with the medium, the reader's experience is one of memorable characters, interesting stories, and being in on the joke. I like that. That's well written. That is well done. Critics and readers alike, publicists too, grasp at where her output lands. Uh, Borges, Calvino, Nabokov, Virgil, all valid. Okay. You had me for the first three. Not all quite on the mark. And in this book, the author has delivered her most narrative work yet with a vision of Philippine history from the 19th century to the present day via the fragmented story of the Delgados, a family surviving across generations of colonialism, of colonization, catastrophe, and war. Rosario Delgado, a Filipina novelist in New York City, learns of her mother's death in the Philippines. Instead of rushing home, she puts off her return by embarking on an investigation into her family's history and her mother's supposed inheritance, a place called La Tercera, which may or may not exist. Rosario catalogs generations of family bequests and detritus, maps of uncertain purpose, rusted chicken coops, a secret journal, the words to songs sung at the family home during visits from Imelda Marcos. Didn't think she was going to stay out of this book, did you? Keep in mind, the main character is doing all of this instead of going home when she learns that her mother is dead. Each life Rosario explores opens onto a multitude of other lives and raises multitudes of questions. But as the search for La Tercera becomes increasingly labyrinthine, Rosario's mother and the entire Delgado family emerge in all their dizzying complexity, traitors and heroes, reactionaries and revolutionaries. Meanwhile, another narrative takes shape of the country's erased history of exploitation and slaughter at the hands of American occupying forces. Okay. All right. Well, through a connection that some of you will be able to guess, I actually know quite a bit about the American colonization, the American occupation of the Philippines, through one particular person. So when did this come out? Is this an older work? No, this is brand new. Great. Okay. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not feeling all that well, so I can't remember off the top of my head what I thought of Insurrecto, if I thought anything of it. But it's just possible that the one person through whom I know Philippine history will be in this book to see how that person is portrayed. But anyway, that is the mail. And we did it. Got through another mail haul. So we have La Tercera by Gina Apostol. We have Wonder confronts certainty about those marvelous mystic Russian writers. We have Glassworks by Olivia Wolfgang Smith, her debut novel. Fantastic. A finished copy. We have I Hear You're Rich. Very, very, very short stories by Diane Williams. And we have Sudden, a novel in translation about a young couple that goes seeking adventure and gets more than they bargained for. So there you go. A nice little pile of mail. Sorry about the StreamYard sigil, but this was the computer that was available to me. So I'm hoping that this is at least passable for today. But I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.